the weight loss is huge, but the real transformation is going to be, me being able to pick up my grandkids and throw them over my head when I'm 80 years old, that kind of thing.
All right, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Kettlebell Guys podcast. My name is Coach Grant. It's going to be me and one of KT's absolute legends, Mr. Chris Wilson, on the podcast today. Sean might join us at some point. We'll see. He's on a client call right now. But Chris, thank you so much for joining me. This is going to be an incredible client interview. I'm very excited to do this because you have seen such incredible results with us. And I think whenever a guy like you shares your results, your experience, you just never know who you're going to inspire. So I appreciate you hopping on, man. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. No, glad to do it.
So to get into it, why don't we start with state kind of your name, your what do you do for work, what's family life like, and then what kind of led you to KT?
Okay. Yeah. No, like you already covered it. Yeah. Name's Chris Wilson. I live in St. Louis, and in my late 40s, I'm an aerospace engineer. Been an engineer my entire life. Worked for a major aerospace corporation as a senior manager. And I guess, what led me to KT, I'd say, especially over the past, 5 or 6 years or so, it was kind of on a very, it's probably similar to other guys, a very, roller coaster fitness journey. And, would do things like, running, cycling, have had a, personal trainer in the past doing weightlifting. Yeah, back in the day when I was in high school, I ran cross country and track and weightlifted pretty much, every semester that we had, gym. So always been on the bigger side. When I was running cross country, I was 170 something pounds. So a big boned guy, kind of like Cartman. And, been on, like I said, a roller coaster fitness journey where I've tried stuff, get bored with it, quit, and then start over again, because I know I need to do something. It's just, don't know what to do. And so your guys' ads on Facebook and Instagram are very effective, and it knew exactly how to target me. And I just kept seeing them over and over again, would watch the videos. And, like with anything else on social media, I'm like, there's no way, this is too good to be true. These guys aren't legit, all those kind of doubts that go through your mind. And then it was sometime at the, beginning of December, I think, of last year. I was at work and I'm like, you know what, screw it. Scheduled a call and talk to Vip. And he didn't even have to really finish his spiel. And I'm like, all right, dude, let's do it. And I remember he gave me the option. He's like, hey, do you want to do the, 4 months or, do you want to sign up for the year of change? And I'm like, dude, I can do anything for 4 months. I said, let's do the year of change and get the extra 3 months free. And so that's what I've been doing. And man, it's been great. So
I want to go back and kind of go through that chronologically with you. But before we do that, can you give kind of just an overview of your results? So where were you when you first joined? Where are you now? Because I think I'm excited for you to talk about it. So
Yeah. So again, the weight followed the same roller coaster that, my exercise and diet routine did. And at the end of last year, I was hovering around 240 pounds, 5'10". And then, like I said, always been a kind of a big bone guy. But over the first 6 months of the program, dropped over 60 pounds, almost 70 pounds. And it was a linear. I mean, you look at my graph, it's like a straight line down. And yeah, so 70 pounds down and about, according to the scale, about 15% body fat right now. And it was a lot more than that at the beginning of the year. So
that is so savage. Had you lost 60, 70 pounds previously?
No. No. I'd say the closest I got was probably maybe 40 or 50 pounds. Okay. And then that was about the time that I'm like, I'm getting bored with whatever I'm doing. And then, I'd do like a freaking half gainer off the wagon and just, go back to old habits and stop working out, stop eating right, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, nothing this dramatic and long lasting.
So here we are 7 months, 8 months in, you're 70 pounds down. You freaking beast. Holy. Okay. So let's go back because I want to talk about what it was like for you when you found KT, but I wanted to make sure anyone listening to this understands where you are now so that we can go back in time. Don't they do that in the movies where you start with the end and then you go back to the beginning?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So you saw our ads. You were skeptical, like a lot of people are.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you saw him for a while before you then connected with VIP, who actually is a client of ours who you talked to about the program. And you signed up on that call, the first call you had with us.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So
Right away.
I'm assuming you had been thinking about it for a while before then.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd say maybe for, a month, maybe a few weeks, I'm like, I need to reach out to these guys, set up a call. And yeah, it was kind of in the back of my mind for a little bit, but then it was just, there was a switch flipped and I'm like, nope, just do it. And that's when I submitted the application and got the note back from him. So
Got it.
yeah.
Crazy. Okay. So you then submitted your app, hopped on a call, signed up on the call. You're like, God, give me in. I'm ready for the year. I can do anything for
Yep.
4 months. What? How did you feel when you did that? You like, had you seen us for a while where you're like, no, I believe in these guys? Or how did you feel when you signed up for the whole year right off the flop?
So at that point, I would say I felt like super committed. I still had a little bit of skepticism, but I think when we went through the agreement negotiation and you guys sent over, hey, you're going to lose 55 pounds in the first 6 months. I'm like, I'm kind of doing the math in the back of my head, and I'm like, yeah, no, I can do that. I know I can do that, and it in one of my previous, roller coaster cycles of the fitness journey, I became a firm believer back then that nutrition was the key. I mean, working out's important, but nutrition is 80% of it. And so when I talk to VIP, it's like, okay, it's really simple, 10,000 steps a day. We're going to put you on this, graduated nutrition plan, for which I think is really helpful for folks that haven't really focused on their nutrition before. And then 4 workouts a week and sleeping and drinking water. And I'll tell you, drinking water is one of the hardest things that that I still do. But he kind of laid it out. I'm like, dude, it's stupid simple, and it always is stupid simple. But and I think when you and I have talked before, the big difference for me has been the coaching and accountability. The formula is easy, but just doing it on a regular basis, that's the hard part, especially for somebody with my, type A, easily distracted, moving on to new things all the time, personality. The coaching and accountability piece is the huge part. But I felt, to answer your question, felt really committed, was excited, and really couldn't wait for, I think I started on December 28th or 29th. I was going to start the week after that, is what VIP and I had kind of, set up. And I think when I was talking to Hugo, and then I kind of had another moment where I'm like, nope, I'm starting before the end of the year. And I just moved it to the left. And I'm like, it was kind of a mini double down at that point. It's like, just get it started and start the process now. Don't wait till after New Year's and all that kind of jazz. So,
Man.
and then it was just off to the races at that point. So,
Man. So what do you think and I asked this question because I think that there are probably thousands of men out there who have seen our ads who felt the same way that you felt, which is like, maybe they have goals that align with, like, we could help them, but they have a skepticism of like, sounds too good to be true, or would that really be worth it, or whatever it may be. Right. So I'd be curious to hear from you. What do you think took you from seeing the ads, being skeptical, to being like, no, I'm committed and I'm signing up? What was like the tipping point to where maybe you trusted us enough to sign up with us?
it's a good question. I think it was the consistency and simplicity of your guys' content. It wasn't, you see some of the other dudes out there, I won't, mention who they are, but I think everybody knows who they are. It's like, you're one of these 4 body types, take this quiz, blah, 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 blah. They've got big name, celebrities that are endorsing them and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're just, you're full of shit. And your guys' message, again, it's simple. You're consistent about the message, and then the money back guarantee that you guys have. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, cool. But I even after I signed up, and even before I signed up, I'm like, okay, these guys are willing to put their money where their mouth is. It wasn't a huge deal for me, but the fact that you guys were willing to do that, it's like, I'm never going to get my money back. Like, if they're willing to do this, I'm never getting my money back. And I think it was, the simplicity and the consistency, and then just that was like the extra carrot of like, okay, yeah, these guys are serious about wanting to help you, because otherwise they wouldn't offer it.
Yeah.
And and honestly, even though the social media stuff was, just there all the time, it was genuine. So
That's what we aim for. That's for sure. Is the idea of just, that's a good word for it, being genuine, authentic. Because I think that's like, I don't know if that's a strength, but it's like the one thing that we try to lean on. We always try to lean on the fact that like, no, it's just like a real guy. I had a guy message me last night being like, am I talking to an AI bot? And no, like, I wish I had an AI bot talking to you right now because it's 9:30 at night and I want to go to bed.
Right.
But no, you're talking to me. I have one more question about kind of the pre-KT version. Did you, so you saw all of our ads and stuff started to kind of build some trust over time. Did you have a moment like in your real life that was like a breaking point moment for you of like, all right, like sick of my own shit. I got to go get help. I'm not doing it on my own. I need to go hire someone.
Yeah. So I'd say 100%. And like, kind of going back to the same, roller coaster fitness journey where I've, previously lost 40 or 50 pounds and then gained it all back. And so, those were small windows of me knowing what to do and doing it. But then, I wasn't consistent with it over the long term. And I think it was in one of your ads, and I know it's in your other content, but, it was the difference of installing the system for life. And I'm like, dude, I need to do that. I can't keep, doing the couch to, 5K over 12-week bullshit. It's like, okay, you ran the 5K. Now what? So, the fact that you guys, were advertising and really hammering home that this is a lifestyle change and not just hey, we're going to get you down so many pounds and then we're done, I think was the big difference for me. But yeah, it was, okay, lose the weight, gain it back, lose the weight, gain it back. And I think this was like third time's the charm, right? And it's like, I'm done with this shit. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of, being a fat ass and not being healthy and not being consistent and not doing things the right way. And it's like, that was kind of my Christmas present to me. It's like, okay, this is what you're doing. So,
yeah.
And you're going to do it from now on. And you're going to have a community and a coach there to make sure that you do it. So,
man, Christmas present to you. I love that. That's great. All right. So let's talk about, so for someone listening to this who has no idea what the experience might be like, talk about what was it like when you first started? What was it like when you first got into onboarding that first 2, 4, 6 weeks? And then how has kind of your experience evolved over the last, 2 to 3 months, being 8 months in the program?
So the onboarding was great. I mean, for somebody that had never touched a kettlebell in his life, it was spot on. It gave the right instruction to get started in the program. But interestingly enough, I think it was my first or maybe my second exercise or workout in the program. I was doing two-handed swings and lifted with my arms and felt a pull in my back, in my lower back, and I'm like, that sucks. Finished the workout. I belled down a little bit. Finished the workout, and I'm like, man, something's not right. And so immediately texted Hugo, and I'm like, hey, I think I pulled something in my back. And without a beat, he's like, hey, pay attention to your body, see how it feels. I went on a walk that night. I actually went to one of the local malls to walk around in the mall because it was cold outside, and it wasn't getting better. I went for about a week, and I'm like, oh man, I blew it. Like I was probably, I won't say the most defeated in my life, but I was freaking defeated. And I'm like, see, I'm trying to do something and I can't even get it done. And dude, Hugo, I mean, he was there, with me. He's like, being the cheerleader, saying, dude, we'll figure it out. And about 2 weeks went by and I'm like, it's not getting better. We gotta pivot to something else. And I don't even think I said pivot to something else, but he came in, he's like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put you on this other program that we have, really focusing on core strength, stability, kind of taking baby steps into doing get ups and swings and those types of things. And so I ended up pivoting to that program for 16 weeks. And dude, it was the best thing that ever happened. And looking back on it, it was probably the biggest gift that I could have gotten, because could I have muscled through and probably done it? Yeah, probably. I probably would have hurt myself again. But instead, Hugo's like, nope, we're going to come up with a different path, and I'm going to chart this new course for you. And, the program's going to be there because you signed up for a year, so this is a new system that you're installing in your life. So whether you do the first 16 weeks now or you do it 16 weeks from now, it doesn't really matter. and doing that first 16-week program. So, and this is a message to guys out there that, are thinking about the program or, worried about not being able to do it. Don't pay attention to what the 16-week program is. Just do 16 weeks of something, and you guys have the tools to figure out what the right 16 weeks of the first exercise program is. And anyway, yeah, so I'm knocking out my first 16 weeks right now, and almost to the end of that. Dude, I mean, I never thought I'd be able to do some of the stuff that I'm doing right now. And even looking in the community and seeing what some of the other guys are doing, it's like, dude, I'm going to get there eventually. It's like, anyway, so but
that just, man, I wish I could just bottle that up and force feed it to so many guys, because too many guys will, have a similar experience where they'll start something, whether it's in KT, we've had it in KT, and guys outside of KT experience this, where they experience a setback or an injury or a tweak or whatever it may be. And you said, I felt the most dejected I've felt in a long time. And you can go one of two ways. You can either go the route that you went, or you can go the other way, which is,
or you quit.
Right. Which is basically just like quit, say this isn't for me, go down the whole, whatever you want to call it, victim mindset of like, oh, nothing ever works out for me, whatever it may be. Right. But the reality is it's so simple. It's exactly what you said. Like, there is always a path forward if you're willing to do those things. The adjusted 16-week modified program that you went down was adjustments. It wasn't exactly the first 16 weeks that was originally planned, but how much weight did you lose in the first 16 weeks on the modified plan?
Like over 30 pounds. So, yep.
Right. Like, it's pure definition of you can control what you can control. And I think by whatever you want to call it, setting your ego aside or whatever it may be, you then laid this foundation that now literally the rest of your life, when you're executing this system that you've created as your lifestyle, you wouldn't have been able to do that had you not laid that foundation.
Yeah,
right.
100%. And the other piece of it is, and this goes back to something I said a minute ago, that the difference with this program versus just rolling your own is, if I had rolled my own program, and number one, I wouldn't have had the coaching to be able to know how to do stuff right to begin with, right? And then so that would have probably increased my risk of injury even more. So the probability I was going to get injured if I did it myself was probably pretty high. And if I experienced the same thing without the support network and the coach to fall back on to help come up with an alternative plan, I would have quit. I would have been like, dude, not for me. And then I would have been, we'd be sitting here right now and I'd still be 240 pounds. And so, I can't emphasize enough how much the support network and the coaching is the secret sauce to this program. So
any KTers listening to this, if you're going through anything similar, freaking lean on your coach, message your coach right now and get on whatever modified plan needs to happen, because, retreating into, back into a hole where, you just don't communicate. That's like obviously the worst thing you can do, and good on you, Chris. Like, that's, we've had plenty of examples of the opposite of when that happens. There hasn't been, there no communication, or guys go dark, or they ghost, or they just do not look for a solution so they can keep moving forward. We are not immune to that, having that happen to us or for other guys. So that's just, good on you. Like, you should have just like, I never say to a guy, I'm proud of you, like, because who cares what I think? I always want guys to be like, dude, you should be so damn proud of yourself. And you probably are, but like, that is just, man, let me ask you this, and maybe this will illustrate this more. How are things different for you now? So how is it different for you personally? How's it different for your family? How's it different for you in everyday life? Do you see big differences? Do people notice? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. It's, obviously there's the physical aspects. I was a tight 38-inch waist when I started this, and I'm like, dude, I'm not rolling another digit on my pant size. I'm not doing it. And so, but I probably should have. But now I'm, back down into, 32-inch waist pants, which I haven't worn since probably at least college, if not high school. So that's a huge difference.
Savage.
And then, yeah, people that I haven't seen in a lot. So here's a funny story. So like I said, I'm an aerospace engineer. I'm also, a pilot, a flight instructor, and we had an air show here in St. Louis back in June. And my best friend, so he was out there, and we were hanging out, and his son is graduating high school, same age as my daughter, oldest daughter. And anyway, my friend calls me when he's on his way home. He's like, dude, he's like, this is kind of funny. And he says, his son, as they were driving home, said, "Hey, Dad, didn't he used to be more round?"
Yeah.
And dude, I lost it. It was funny, and and I'm like, "Yeah, I did used to be more round." And then I thought back on it, and I'm like, "Dude, I wonder how long he knew me as more round." But so that was cool. But then there are other people that my brother-in-law, he's like, "Man, you look gaunt." I'm like, "Dude, no, I don't. I don't look gaunt. I was just that much of a fat ass before. It's like, that's the difference."
Right.
And,
This is actually what you're supposed to look like.
dude, 100%. And the funny thing, I'm looking, on Facebook and Instagram, it'll pop up with the memories and all that kind of stuff. And, and I look at a picture of like me with my son, and I'm like, dude, I just shake my head. I'm like, I can't believe that I, was ever that big,
Man.
And so anyway, yeah, it's the physical part of it is the physical appearance piece is huge. And I can tell that's having a direct impact on my confidence, just in general at work, personal life, those types of things. So, definitely seeing that. And but the other benefits, like sleep obviously improves, a lot more, what I would say, a lot more even keeled, so, just like the way it was a roller coaster is like, a lot less highs and lows, throughout the day or throughout the weeks. It's kind of easier to just, be water off a duck's ass and just deal with shit. So, I mean, those are all, really positive things. So, but
Man, I love that. I think that's so true. Fit, strong individuals, the less stuff messes with them.
dude, yeah, 100%.
So much more mentally strong and so much less emotionally unstable, in
Yeah.
my opinion, because I don't know, it feels like it's even easier to filter through the stuff that matters and the stuff that doesn't. Or just maybe it's just feeling incredibly confident that like, whatever it is, I'm going to figure it out,
Yeah.
and you just don't have, for a lot of times the guys that we've talked to who they talk about when they were out of shape, it was like this thing that was constantly in the back of their mind, constantly in like the back of their mind. They're thinking about it, whether they realize it or not. And when you don't have that, you have this level of clarity and I think this almost like this energy that you were putting towards that previously that now you could just put towards anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, and the one of the things that kind of, I've thought about this a little bit over the past, 6+ months, but your physical health is really the first part of getting your house in order. I mean, and like the mental health, the emotional health piece. If you're not taking care of the part that you can see, then how are you going to be able to take care of the parts that you can't?
Mhm.
And so to me, that was a big difference for me. Is, hey, I'm taking care of the low hanging fruit. And when I'm doing that, then the other stuff follows. So,
Man, that is so very true. Has your family said anything, or like your wife or kids? How have they reacted to new Chris?
yeah. So for some reason, I always get, I surround myself with like, very sarcastic, dry humored, funny people, including my kids. And my middle daughter, there was one time I was like getting ready in the morning or something like that, and she comes in and she's a teenager, so she has no filter, and she goes, "Hey, Dad," she's like, "Where's all your loose skin?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, and like you could tell the wheels were turning in her head, like, okay, I have to be careful about what I say next because, what she was insinuating is, hey, fat people are going to have a lot of loose skin when they lose weight. And I'm like, you say that was fat? She, no, 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 no. I wasn't saying you were fat. I'm like, no, I said, it's okay. And I said, well, one of the reasons I don't have loose skin is because I'm losing weight the right way. I'm doing it gradually over time as opposed to, having it all sucked out or something like that, So,
Kettlebells will do that to you. Kettlebells,
dude, yeah.
your muscles get bigger as your fat gets smaller.
Yep. Right.
Oh man, it's funny. So you mentioned that funny story. We actually, ironically enough, we have another member named Chris, and he was telling me a story. He also has lost a bunch of weight. I think he's lost like 40, 50 pounds. And he was telling me he was at, I believe it was like a neighborhood party, and someone came up to him and said, "Hey, when is Chris going to get here?" And he looked at him.
Oh,
He's
dude.
I am here. I'm right. They were like, my God. Yeah, it happens. People get used to, people get used to seeing a certain version of us. That's great, man.
And the funny thing is that you can tell sometimes when they say stuff that they feel like, they're like, oh man, I just offended him. And the thing is, I look at it as the greatest compliment.
Yeah. Right.
It's like, dude, I love it. I love the fact that people, are noticing the change, because that means it's big and it's been big. So
there's also the aspect of just I think the pride that you can feel with that, because like you said, you did it a certain way. When people say stuff like that, you can take it as a compliment because you put in so much hard work to achieve it. And like, whether people realize it or don't realize it, that just feels good. There's just a level of confidence there that you can only gain from actually doing the work.
Yeah. And the other interesting thing, there are little things that I've noticed, it's like walking up the stairs, we got a couple office buildings that have like 3 or 4 flights of stairs. And I've always taken the stairs usually just because, well, that's part of being healthy. Right. And this is honestly the first time in one of the buildings, I think it's 4 flights, I can get to the top quickly and not be out of breath at all. And then the other thing I noticed was, my son, he plays baseball and at the end of a game he catches. And so he'll have one of us carry his catching gear bag. And it's like, I'm doing a freaking farmer's carry or suitcase carry all the way to the car. And like, I'm not having to set it down or anything like that. I'm like, dude, rock on. Like it's the little things like that you notice, it's like, I am stronger. So
I play mind games with myself every once in a while. If I'm like going through the store or having to carry something or groceries or whatever. And I'll have a moment where I'm almost annoyed that I'm carrying so much things. And I'm like, all right, well, hang on. It's kind of like a workout. Like, all right, let's see what I can do.
Right. Yep.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you how do I want to ask this? So you've been in the program now for 7-8 months, and when you said you came in, you said, all right, I'm committed. Like I'm committed. I'm going to do what they tell me to do. And you were looking for a system that you can do the rest of your life. And you're looking for what a lot of guys are probably looking for, which is like a lifestyle shift, right? Do you feel like you have changed the way that your certain beliefs around your health? Is there anything that maybe you believed pre-KT that you, after going through this process for the last 7-8 months, you realize either like that's not true, or you've developed new kind of thought patterns or belief around certain things?
So I think, kind of when I mentioned before about like the couch to 5K thing, about setting a goal and then achieving it. And then, okay, now what do I do next? Right.
Yeah.
Those kind of programs, those are all fine and good. They're good to meet a goal if you want to go run a marathon or something like that. But I would say that, one of my mental shifts is that, okay, if you want to go run a marathon, do one of those programs, but you still need to be doing something that is foundational. That's not foundational. That might get you to run a marathon, but then what? You still need a foundational lifestyle shift that is going to carry you through to your 70s and 80s, like you guys talk about. And so I've, and I know you guys know I'm a huge fan of David Goggins. And, I think on one of his, podcasts with Joe Rogan, he's like, the thing that tires me is that there is no end. There's no end, my friend, I think is how he says it. And Rogan's like, oh, that's crazy. It's like, but that's the thing. That's, I've heard him say those words and I'm like, okay, I get what he's saying.
Yeah.
And now I'm starting to live it. And so the thing that, I think you and I have talked about it, and, I know Hugo and I have talked about it is, Turkish get-ups, doing your very heavy bell. What's really cool about just calling it your very heavy bell is that the weight is going to change and it's always going to be your very heavy bell. And so the same feeling that I have now with a, 44-pound, kettlebell is going to be the same feeling I have when I get up to, 53, 62, 80, 88, whatever it is. Yep. The very heavy bell is still going to suck sometimes, Yeah. And, it's like, and so the fact that, putting in the work is always going to be work. It's always going to be hard. There are going to be days where you never want to fucking do it. And it's just like, you can sit there for as long as you want staring at the bells, but the work still needs to be done, and it may be hard, and just go get it done. And there have been days where it's like, just last week or the week before, I went on a couple week vacation, had a hard time getting back into the groove. And again, Hugo's, pumping me up, and he's, sending me notes and helping, with the accountability and all that kind of stuff. And so I think it was last week before last, I tried I couldn't even do a very heavy get up on my left-hand side. Couldn't even do it. Come on, man. You were doing it before vacation. And so I felt that old mentality start to creep in, and I'm like, dude, you got to knock it the fuck off. Just do the work. If you can't do that, bell down, maybe do a couple extra reps, increase your volume, just do something different.
Yeah.
And eventually you'll get there. And sure as shit, the last workout I did on Saturday, put up 3 on the left side, they were kind of sloppy, but it's like, so a 2-week difference made all the difference. I'm back to where I was, it's like, so no harm, no foul.
Mm.
But again, it just reinforces the fact that you have to show up, you have to do the work, that no matter how much you don't want to do it, just make it a habit, and it's got to be your new habit. The other mental shift I would say that I've had is in terms of prioritizing what's important, and this has kind of been, the summer of George for me, but it's like unless I have done the important things, then I can't do the fun things, so it's like, happy hour at work, right? It's like, have you got your 10,000 steps in? Have you done your workout? Nope. Well, then figure out how to get that in before you get to go have fun and, go, play around a Topgolf or something like that. So, it's like there are, fitness, family, those faith, those kinds of things, have to come first before you get to do the fun stuff. And because you're always going to choose the fun stuff. You're always going to choose the easy stuff. The hard stuff, you're never going to pick. So,
man, that's good. That's because the other thing too is like when you go through the process you went through where you lose so much weight and then you feel what your body feels like when you work out consistently, the way your body feels going to a happy hour after you've done a workout versus like working all day and then just going to the happy hour, you feel completely different at that event.
Yeah. 100%.
And like, if once, so people might look at you and be like, well, that's crazy. Like you're a psycho, right? It's like,
maybe.
Right. Like if you're a psycho, then so am I. But it's like, if you have never felt that, if you've never felt the difference between the two of like going and doing the same thing at the happy hour, drinking the same thing, eating the same thing even, but doing all the stuff you need to do first versus not doing it. If you knew how that felt, you wouldn't choose the other way. You just wouldn't.
100%.
Man.
100%.
We had a guy who, one of our probably our first 50-ish clients, his name's Mark. He's a good friend of mine still. He always tells the story of he was at a birthday party in his neighborhood for one of his son's friends. And he went over to the birthday party, had like one non-alcoholic drink, said, all right, I got to go do my workout. Went across the street, crushed 45 minutes and came back to the birthday party. And they were like, and then he came back and had cake. And they're like, you just went and worked out? Like, he's like, yeah, like, I don't know. Like I don't know. It's just what I wanted to do. Right. And the second you start to get to the point where you're like, it's actually what I want to do and it's what I want to do. And I don't care about what anybody else thinks. And you start living by that. That's like a new level of freedom, I think.
It is. And, when you make it a priority, there has to be flexibility, there has to be moderation, all that kind of stuff. But when you make it a priority, it makes decision making easier. If I'm going to choose this or that, I haven't done what I'm supposed to do. So, and again, everything we're talking about is so freaking simple, but it's like, you have to go through the process for your mental frame of mind to change. It's like, you can read a textbook, or, self-help book and be like, yeah, everything in here makes sense. Then why aren't you doing it? Because you haven't gone through the struggle of changing your beliefs and your habits and all that kind of stuff. And again, I know I'm a broken record, but and I think you've said it and we've talked about it before, but if you if you know what to do, but you don't do it, then you don't know what to do. Your words, not mine. If you've found yourself in that position before, then yes, you need help. And that's what a coach is there for, is to help provide that accountability. And that's what this community in my mind is there for. It's like, just posting your green check marks. It's like, okay, people see me, and they may not say a word, but they see, Chris Wilson behind this week, he's only got 2 check marks on a Saturday. It's like, what the hell's going on? It's like, all right, I know people see it. So now I gotta step up next week. So, but
the other thing with that, like just showing up and everything, there's moderation. There's, you don't have to be a actual psycho around some of this stuff. It's like, I mean, of course you're going to go on vacation. Right? You're going to go on vacation and you're going to enjoy the whole week. Like Sean just got back from Ireland. He probably had 1,000 Guinnesses in Ireland.
Right. Yeah.
Right? But this week he's going to get back and he's crushing bells today and right back on the horse. Right. So you're going to have times where you go enjoy yourself. Like that's not the same as I know I need to go get a workout in before I go to a happy hour. That happens all the time. Right. And you can't use one as an excuse not to do the things you need to do. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And I love the fact that you talk about the coaching aspect so much. And I want to give you a moment to talk about Coach Hugo, because one of the things I like to set aside on these podcasts is an opportunity for guys to talk about their coach. But I any person I ever talk to, I always tell them that's what you're paying for. Like if you're joining KT, it's not because we have some sort of magic plan. Like I believe 10% of what we do is the information organized in a way that will produce certain results. And I think give guys like this mindset shift of I can do this, right? Like the workouts are a little bit easier. I can do them from home. I can do them with kettlebells. I can see how I can get stronger. And maybe guys have never felt strong in their entire life, right? There's 10% of that, which is, executing certain things in a certain way to produce a certain outcome. But 90% of it it's up here. It's between your 2 ears, like you said. And the thing that when guys are investing into KT, you're investing into someone who's helping you reprogram what's between your ears.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Floor is all yours to talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Coach Hugo.
Yeah. I don't know, what kind of internal matching process you guys have, but I mean, you nailed it with, pairing me up with Hugo. He's in a similar phase of life as I am. I think has, similar, fitness journey, fitness experience, fitness journey, or, wanting to get, to this stage in life and be more fit. So I definitely think that, the parallels there. Obviously, I'm multiple years behind where he's at fitness wise, but I'll get there. And so anyway, I think he's been on a similar journey as I'm going through right now. But, his demeanor is, unflappable, just super chill, super calm. It doesn't really matter, whether it was the back issue I was dealing with, over the past couple of weeks, I've had, blister issues from getting, back into swinging bells and stuff like that. And it's just all right, so, here's some things you can do, sends me a video, sends me a link, whatever, encourages me to make sure that I'm taking care of my body instead of, just abusing the living piss out of it, to make it through a workout. And so, it's definitely, you can tell in his, through his thought process and through his coaching that he is coaching for the long game and not just to get to, a 44-pound get up or something like that. The other piece, and this goes to what you were saying about, the kind of change of what's in between your ears and the mental reframe. You can tell he knows the right time to plant a seed. And I think it was in my first 8 weeks of this 16-week portion of it, we were doing an accelerator call. And I think I was don't remember the weights exactly. I think I was doing 35 and 44 for swings, or maybe even 26 and 35. I mean, it was super light. And so I was working up to 44 at the end of that first 8 weeks. And he's like, let's try some 53s. And I hadn't swung a 53-pound bell yet. And I'm like, fuck. I'm like, dude, I'm just getting into 44s. You want me to go swing a 53? And I'm like, and there was a part of me that's like, are you insane? Are you outside of your mind? And I didn't say that. I'm like, okay, go over there, get the 53-pound bell. And so, repped out 5 or 10, maybe even. or maybe 2 sets of 5, something like that. And he's like, see, you got the power to do it. And it was something like, that's all he said. He didn't say, hey, let's start incorporating 53s. He didn't, it wasn't any of that. It was just, yeah, see, you can do 53. And so we hung up on the call, and I'm like, fuck, like he planted the seed, and it wasn't a seed of doubt. It was a seed of you could do more, it's like, and so I finished the workout that day, and I think I did 2 additional sets of 10, or maybe even 3 sets of 10 with 53 pounds. And so over the course of the next, I think I had, like I said, 3 or 4 weeks left in the first 8 weeks. I built up, like my very heavy bell became my heavy bell. And so now I'm working on, 62-pound swings, all because he planted that little seed. And he knew, he could tell, he could tell from the videos, he could tell from, where I was at. I mean, he just knew. And he did the same thing again. A few weeks ago, and I was doing 35-pound get-ups. I think I was getting to the point where, like, I was doing triples with 26. And so, I was doing 26 and 35. Don't think I had tried a get-up with a 44-pound bell. Like, I wasn't even, like, getting close to doing 44 pounds. And he's like, hey, let's try it. So did some 35-pound. He's like, man, your form is really good, and he's like, you're really, moving with intention and all that kind of stuff. Why don't you get the 44-pound bell? And I'm like, did you say 44? Like, he's like, yeah, let's try the 44-pound bell. He's like, let's see if you can do one. And so knocked one out on my right side, was able to do it. And then rolled over to my left side. And I think it was going from the rear lunge position, standing. I just failed, and dropped the bell. He's like, all right. He's like, let's walk around and shake it off for a second. He's like, you got one on the right side, man. And he was just like, and just amping me up about that, but not like over the top or anything.
Yeah.
He's like, and then I think all he said was, you want to try the left side again? And I'm like, fuck yeah. Yes, I do. And so, and got back down on the left side and just, posted up a 44-pound get up on the left side. And I'm like, and before we even started that, he knew, and I would have told you there's no effing way that I could have done it, but he knew. And so those 2 experiences, those have carried with me as I've continued to progress in the program, because it's almost like, what would Coach Hugo say? He's like, oh, you could do it. It's like, come on, you could do it.
He says that, and you're like, I know what you're doing. Don't you,
dude, right?
Like you in my head.
You playing a game with me.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it's the only way, and that's the thing. And telling, especially for guys that are looking into the only that are looking at the program that haven't signed up, the only way that a coach knows how to do that is that they are experienced doing what they're doing. They're not making this shit up. They know what they're doing. They know how to work with clients of different, skill sets and levels and things like that, different mentalities, different personalities. And that's, again, that's the secret sauce. So is the coaching. Yeah. So dude, Hugo, coach, couldn't have done it without you, man. And still not going to do it without you. So
I think that's probably, there's a lot of things that go into coaching and accountability, but one of its cores is the fact that, like, they just see what's possible for you before you see it. If I think about the best coaches that I've ever had in my life, it's just guys that made me believe something about myself that I wouldn't have believed by myself,
Yep. 100%.
And like, the right coach does that at the right time. Who knows how much growth you can go through on your own that you just never would have gone through had you not had that person there to be like, dude, you can do it. Like, so man, that is amazing. Hugo, shout out to Hugo. He's the man.
Dude, thanks, coach. So
I know we're running out of time, but I got a couple last things I want to ask you. Number one would be, is there anything that you would tell, knowing what you know now, is there anything that you would tell Chris Wilson from, December 1st of last year? Is there anything you'd tell you 9 months ago, knowing what you know now?
Probably, dude, you're not going to believe it. Like, you're not going to believe the results. And this is just the leap of faith that I took with you guys. Yeah, I would be like, dude, you're not going to believe it. It's going to be even better than the brochure, So
yes. Okay. I got some quick hitters for you. We call these the rapid fire questions. See if I can remember them, because I actually haven't done a client podcast here in a couple of weeks. Okay. So if you were stranded on a desert island and you could only bring one kettlebell with you, which kettlebell would you bring?
Ooh, that's a good one. Right now with where I'm at, I'd probably bring a 53-pound belt.
Good choice. Okay. You're on that desert island. You can only do one exercise for the rest of your life. And I know you're still kind of in the beginning of the year that you're in. Which exercise are you choosing?
Get ups.
Good choice. Good choice. Okay. Last question. And I'm curious if you're going to have anything that comes to your mind that's different than what you said a second ago.
Okay.
The question is, say you got a friend, a buddy, someone who's listening to this who is really considering joining KT, but they are like you were at the beginning. They're skeptical. They've just seen the ads. They're nervous about the investment, the money that's involved. What would you tell that individual?
I mean, I honestly, it would be just, dude, set all your doubts aside and just effing do it. So, it probably would tell them the same thing that you've said. Hey, you know what to do. You haven't done it. The difference is, having somebody to, hold you accountable and be there for you as you work through that program and just set the doubt aside and just go do it. It's really as simple as that. Just take the leap of faith and just go fucking do it. So
that's all you need. Mic drop right there. Chris, thank you, buddy, for taking the time. Truly. I mean, like I said, you should be so damn proud of yourself because your results in the first 7 months are amazing. And you are truly leading from the front. I hope so many KT guys who listen to the podcast, who listen to this, if there's any KT guys who are going through or went through a similar situation in terms of tweaking something, getting injured, no matter what part of the journey they're in, I hope that they hear what happened with you and the mentality that you took towards it, and they realize what's possible, even if you're going through something like that. I hope they hear that. Just anybody, it doesn't have to be KTers, because you are really leading from the front in terms of like showing, I think, what's possible, no matter what. And KT itself doesn't exist without guys like you who go and do that, and they forge forward and they create the path for others to be able to follow. So my eternal gratitude.
I think, and the thing I've been telling myself, and I would, for any guy who's at the beginning of their journey, when you reach your goal of whatever it is, weight loss, fat loss, whatever, that's just the beginning. And that's the piece that, especially over the past few weeks, I've been having to remind myself is that was just the beginning phase. Now the real transformation is starting. The weight loss is huge, but the real transformation is going to be, me being able to pick up my grandkids and throw them over my head when I'm 80 years old, that kind of thing. So,
boy, one of our clients, I always say to him that the real work starts once the novelty wears off.
Shaq.
It's true, man. It's true. Because, you reach the goal in 7 months, you look up and you realize, fuck, I got 40 plus more years of this. Shit.
Dude, right. 100%, man.
Well, we're doing it right alongside each other, man. Just crushing some bells.
Dude, I love it. I
appreciate your time. I'm truly grateful for you, Chris. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah. Hey, and I know it sounds cliche, but couldn't have done it without you guys. So you guys have an amazing system, amazing group of dudes, amazing group of coaches. So it takes a lot of vision and leadership. So thanks, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that, truly. All right, buddy. Well, until next time, anyone listening or watching, thank you. Appreciate you. We'll check you guys out on another episode. See you guys.
Awesome. Peace.